Coming up on Golden State Warriors today, we're getting into the latest Warriors news and rumors on Nemanja Bjelica, Otto Porter Jr., Gary Payton II, and Jordan Poole. But first, you take a look at the Western Conference standings. It's the Warriors atop the West. The Los Angeles Lakers all the way down in 10th. But here's the deal. Here at Chat Sports, the Lakers report is crushing Warriors today in terms of subscribers. We're about 16,000 behind the Los Angeles Lakers. Hit that red subscribe button if you want more Warriors news and rumors videos. And we got to catch the Lakers report because we can't go down to Los Angeles. Welcome into Golden State Warriors today by Chat Sports. I am your host, Chase Senior. I hope all of your weeks are off to a fantastic start as we're bringing you the latest Warriors news and rumors on a Monday. We're feeling good. Warriors are feeling good, especially after that thumping of a victory against the Houston Rockets at the Chase Center on Sunday night. When I watched this game last night, the free-flowing nature in which the Warriors played with, how much fun they were having, the bench reaction every time Otto Porter hit a three or a big play happened, really reminded me of those early Warriors teams going back to that 2014-2015 range in which they played such an entertaining style of basketball, and they went up by a massive margin against the Houston Rockets, a really young team, but they were playing with so much entertaining force, so much effort, so much energy. And I was like, you know what? I feel like I'm watching Steph Curry and the boys back in their early portion of their prime. Jordan Poole going off for 25 points. Steph Curry, he's been okay to start the season, but when the Warriors have needed him, he's been able to step up. 20 points in that effort last night. And then how about the effort of Otto Porter Jr., who we'll get to here in just a few moments. But then going back to the early part of that Warriors dynasty, what was one of the key configurations of those teams? It was depth. And when you take a look at this Warriors team in 2021, 2022, the common theme for this roster, it is depth. So many different players who can hurt you in a variety of ways. And Steve Kerr at his disposal has a really good starting five, but he can go with a multitude of players off the bench who can hit you with different moves and moments in the game offensively and defensively. Speaking of that depth, Otto Porter Jr., an underrated signing in NBA free agency, has been massive for the Warriors here in the early going. And last night, he set off some fireworks in San Francisco, man. I mean, the Bay Area was going off when Otto Porter Jr. hit 3 threes in the span of 40 seconds, as he was also getting it done during that time with some really good defense, putting in some work on the glass as well. 15 points, 9 boards, 5 of 9 from the field, 5 of 7 from deep, as he was just on a Steph Curry heater. How about the play of Nemanja Bjelica? Sometimes Steve Kerr has to go to him a lot coming off the bench. Sometimes, depending on the matchup, Bjelica doesn't get that many minutes. Last night, Steve Kerr needed Bjelica, and he stepped up. 9 points, 2 boards, 3 of 4. But what he was able to do offensively and defensively, he finished the game a plus 27, game high among all players. Analytical darling last night. As for what Steve Kerr had to say about Bjelica, as well as Otto Porter Jr., speaking highly of him, as well as Gary Payton II, and all of these other bench pieces, this has really been a key cog for what the Warriors have done this year. Steve Kerr said this, quote, "Otto and Belly have given us a totally different dimension from anything we've had since I've been here. Just having 2 bigs who can shoot threes like that really opens the floor." And that's pretty telling for Kerr to say that, quote, "since I've been here," because as we know, Warriors made it to 5 straight NBA Finals and won 3 titles under the watch of Steve Kerr. But I also have to give a shout out to Bob Myers for how he's been able to put this roster together. Over the last couple of years, it's been a team partially because of injuries, but also because of a lack of depth, because they're paying Steph Curry, Draymond Green, and Klay Thompson large sums of money that they haven't been able to fill out the roster with quality depth pieces. That is not an issue this year. Bob Myers deserves credit for that, and he could be NBA Executive for the Year if this hot Warriors team continues to ball out. As for Jordan Poole, a little bit of a sluggish start to the season, and he was kind of hot and cold. In some moments, he'd go on these stretches where he looked unbelievable. Other moments, he couldn't buy a bucket. But as we talked about last week, always remains confident. And that's what you want to see from a guy like Jordan Poole, and that's what's made Steph Curry, Klay Thompson so dangerous, is that they have a short memory, and they're able to forget some of those misses and then come through with some of the big buckets. Jay Poole last night, 25, 5, 7 of 13 from the deck, 9 of 9 at the free throw line. This young player, still in his early 20s, growing before our eyes. So he is up for the Most Improved Player of the Year award, and he's really neck and neck with Miles Bridges of the Charlotte Hornets. If you've been watching Bridges, you're like, holy shit, this guy is balling out, playing excellent basketball. Who do you think wins Most Improved Player if it comes down to these guys? Is it JP? Is it MB? Let me know. Type JP or MB in the comment section right now. Warriors Today, presented to you today thanks to our sportsbook partner, BetUS. This deal, it's the best deal that any sportsbook has to offer. If you go to chatsports.com/bet, enter the promo code chat125, you get a 125% deposit bonus. So you put $100 into your account, you get an additional $125 back. To simplify some of these betting odds for you, here you go. So right now, Jordan Poole, speaking of Most Improved Player, is favored or among the favorites to win that award at plus 1,500 odds. So what that means is if you risked $5 for Jay Poole to win that award at plus 1,500 odds, and he actually won, your payout would be $75. In sports betting, you're always looking for good value bets. This is a good value bet. You risk $5. If you lose it, that's fine. That's like a sandwich, right? If you win it, though, $75, that's a night out on the town. As for the latest on Gary Payton II, continues to earn more and more minutes on this deep, very, very talented roster, quickly becoming one of the most impactful players on the Dubs this year. And Steve Kerr, it's been fascinating to see how he's used Gary Payton II, who's been a journeyman up until really this year in his NBA career. Undrafted out of Oregon State, playing in the G League, couldn't really stick on a roster long term. I think it's fair to say right now, GP2, a long-term roster fit, and he's a perfect fit on the current construction of this roster. Steve Kerr using him sometimes as an off-ball cutter, an off-ball diver, where he's getting some alley-oops or slashing to the basket. At times, Gary Payton II has been used as a small ball 5, and he's thriving offensively, but really, this guy defensively is a junkyard pit bull. Steve Kerr on GP2 had this to say recently. He's just doing it nightly, which he really is. He's a great weapon to have coming off the bench. I think I've said this, but what's great about this year's team is we have a lot of shooting and a lot of spacing, which opens up the floor for Gary. This year's team is a much better fit for him than last year's team was. That's why he's able to make such an impact. And you saw his impact once again against the Rockets. And this is a guy who was battling for the 15th roster spot with Avery Bradley. Initially, he didn't make the team. Warriors bring him back. All 29 other teams across the NBA had their opportunity to sign Gary Payton II. It's the Warriors who bring him back as he nabs that 15th roster spot, and that decision has paid massive dividends. Last night against Houston, 10 points, 5 of 6. His plus-minus consistently has been in the 20s because of the impact that he gives you on both ends of the floor. He can guard multiple positions, and I'm not saying this guy is going to be a superstar and get the bag at some point. But what I am saying is that quality players like this coming in off the bench when you need quality minutes from them, and they can contribute those minutes and play very well within those minutes, it's extremely valuable throughout the course of an 82-game schedule when the Steph Curry minutes are down because you're trying to conserve him for later on in the year, and you're trying to make a run at the NBA championship, and you have to play a lot of games in the regular season as well as combined in the playoffs. One more time before we get out of here, make sure you subscribe to the channel. We're north of 23,000 subs here on Warriors Today, one of the fastest growing and largest Warriors channels covering the latest news and rumors on this team on YouTube. We had a video from Friday pop off for almost 34,000 views. So make sure you subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Warriors do lead the NBA with a record best 8-1 record throughout the first 9 games. And I know some of you watching are like, Chase, pump the brakes a little bit. Their schedule has been really soft to start the year. You can only do so much, right? You can only take care of who is on your schedule, and the eye test tells me that the Warriors are playing very well against all of the teams on their schedule. They've been on a torrid pace throughout this home game winning streak at the Chase Center. Right now in the West, 8-1, right atop the conference. Utah Jazz 7-3, followed by the Dallas Mavericks, Phoenix Suns, Memphis Grizzlies. And this is a pretty deep Western Conference this year where I think the playoff standings and the playoff picture is going to be very compelling, but I don't think there's any question, and I don't think anybody would make the argument against the Warriors being the best team in the West. I think you can also make the argument Warriors could be the best team in the NBA. So Dubs homies, before we get out of here, chime in once more. How confident are you in the Golden State Warriors? Scale it for me from 1 to 100. 1 being not confident at all. You're a stiff and a fraud if you believe that. 100 being I'm so confident in this team. Hey, I'm up there. You let me know.